The other day, I went to grab my favorite pair of hand knit socks and I noticed a couple thin spots. And then I started looking closer and I noticed an actual freaking hole in the socks. I have no idea how a hole got there without me noticing it. I don't like what you're insinuating. You know what, Gary? We've been together for a long time now and I put up with a lot of disrespect. Gary? Gary, where'd you go? Gary, what are you doing with that spoon? Gary? I have no idea how the hole got there, but I'm guessing from just general wear and tear because I wear these socks all the time with shoes. So, it makes sense. It was bound to happen eventually. And I actually wasn't upset about this development because I have been wanting to darn a pair of socks since I knit my first pair of socks. Like, I have been waiting for this moment. And I was thinking about it, and it's been a minute since I full cleaned all of my knits, and some of them are a little stinky. So I'm just gonna do a blank slate, caring for all of my knits, getting them back all into like prime condition. And you're gonna join me this time. Step one is gonna be honestly the most like demanding step as far as effort goes, and that's washing all of my knits. I do basically the same thing every time I go to wash my hand knits. And crochet items, I just use knits as an umbrella term because it's less syllables than crochet. I always get a bowl. I have a big stainless steel bowl that I use to wash my knits that I already had. I use the same wool wash every single time. I've never used a different wool wash, so I cannot attest to whether this is the best one or not. I just know that this one's pretty popular. I bought this 2 years ago and I wash my knits pretty frequently. A little goes a long way. Usually I just eyeball how much I put in here. I personally use somewhat warm water. I think you're supposed to use like straight up cold water. I don't, because I don't have a good reason. Like, there's not a good technical reason for why I don't. I should roll up my sleeves more. So I use warm water because it's just like a personal me thing. I don't like the sensation of washing knits in cold water. And then also, I just feel like it's cleaner in warm water. I don't know if that's true or not. If I'm working with something that I think is more prone to felting, then maybe I'll be a little bit more conscious to use colder water. It's not hot. It's just like slightly warm. And then, yeah, I just toss the things in that I want to wash and just like squeeze it really aggressively for a while. And a lot of people are like, I let it soak for 15 to 30 minutes because I'm a good person. And I just let it soak till either I'm too impatient and I dump it out early and rinse it off, or I just let it sit for like 2 hours and forget about it. I should also say I am lucky that I've never had color bleeding because I've never bothered checking if my yarn bleeds before washing it, which you should do. I know a lot of people do this, but a good way to check if something's going to bleed or not before you wash it, like if the color is going to bleed out, is just take a damp paper towel and just kind of like dab it onto the yarn that you're working with. This is, I think, especially true, and I need to start doing before colorwork projects because I have a red and white colorwork project that I'm like going to start soon, and I am nervous that that's going to bleed, so I need to check the yarn on that. I am going to let these chill for an unknown amount of time. The bottle says not to rinse it. I rinse it. I don't know how bad that is. I have really sensitive skin. Like, I was a really healthy kid. Like, I very rarely got sick, but I always had some sort of rash somewhere, so it's just a me thing. I need to rinse it. I can't know that there's like soap debris just coating all the fibers waiting to get on my skin. I know that this is probably very gentle. I don't trust it. I don't care. I don't care if it's olive oil is the only ingredient. I'm rinsing it. So I've been like washing my stuff in batches, and my most recent batch is currently sitting in the sink soaking. And I ended up having to wash my like red tank top separately, and I don't think I've actually washed it since blocking it. And Man, it bleeds quite a bit. So I immediately like noticed that and separated it into its own bowl so that it wouldn't dye all my white stuff pink. I don't mind if stuff bleeds a little bit. Like if it's such an unnoticeable even shade of like everything's going to be tinted just a tiny bit blue and no one's going to notice the before and after. I don't care so much about that kind of bleeding. I don't like the like, oh yeah, it's going to be pink now. You're never in my videos. This is Mary. She's very rarely on camera. The next obvious step is once I've finished washing and rinsing all of my knits, I then lay them out on a towel. This is my knit washing towel. All of our other towels are white, so this is the one I always use just in case stuff bleeds onto it. So when I go to dry stuff, it's really not complicated. None of this is all that complicated. I think people have a tendency to overcomplicate this stuff, and some people are very particular about the way that they wash their knits. As you may have noticed, I'm a little bit less particular than I think the average individual. I do hand wash everything. That's important to me, but we're doing dry step number 1, which is a very common drying step where I just lay whatever it is out flat. I roll it up in my towel all the way. And then depending on what it is, I'll squeeze it out or I will put it on the ground and I will just like walk on this until I feel like most of the moisture has been taken out. So at this point, this is just a little damp. It's no longer wet. Like if I were to squeeze this as hard as possible, there would be no dripping water coming out. It's just a little damp. So it's a step in the process that's completely non-essential. Like you don't have to do it, I think, for the quality of the piece and to maintain the quality of the piece. It's really just about the convenience of it drying faster when you go to air dry it. So I'm gonna do this with all of my pieces and then we'll move on to the air drying process. So my drying process looks a little different depending on what season it is. And I'm gonna show you the winter version. So when it's really hot out in the summer, I have these like slatted chairs that have like a really big base on them. And I will lay them out on top of those so that they get airflow both directions and they dry like so fast. But in the winter, it's pretty humid where I live and it's not very sunny. So it would take days for a sweater to dry out on the balcony. Half the days out of the year, I have to dry stuff inside. Some people are really gonna hate how I do this. So most people recommend that you lay everything completely flat, like completely smooth, flat surface or like netting. Like there are specific things that you can buy to dry your knits on. However, I don't have a lot of storage space, so I don't really feel like owning a bunch of stuff to just dry my knits when I have systems in place that work just fine for me, or at least for now. My dream in the future would be to one day have, like in a house, have a laundry room that has one of those ceiling ones that comes down and you place everything on top of it. And I think it'd be cool to have one that's just like a net for all of my knits, so that it would dry super well. A lot of people take major issue with this drying process, and I get it. And if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. You don't have to. And I will explain why so you can make informed decisions by yourself. But basically, no one would ever hang their knits like this to dry because it stretches it out. The reason why I do it is a lot of my knits, for some reason, I have a tendency to make everything too short. Like I very rarely make something too long. So I'm okay with it stretching out this way. And then the other issue is whatever position you dry it in, it's likely to hold that a little bit. So if I just hung it on this bar like this, it would kind of have a kink in it here when I go to pick it up. But this is alpaca, it's incredibly drapey. I've dried this sweater so many times this way that I know it doesn't have that kink in it when I dry it like this. It just dries perfectly. If I have a fabric that's not as drapey, that I know is gonna show that kink in it, then I just dry it on this level, and that's fine. This piece especially, I knit it really cropped, so I want to stretch it out every time I go to wash it, and I want it to fit really tight. Like when I go to put it on my body, I want it to have more negative ease than positive ease. So I will literally just leave it hanging like this. And this one doesn't really kink because it's cashmere, super drapey, but sometimes just in case, I'll sort of adjust like every couple hours where it's sitting just slightly on the rung, and that way it also does not get that like kink in it. Feel free to drop down to the comment section if you want to see people screaming, no, don't do that. I'm not recommending you do any of this. This is literally just me showing you what I do. Also, I have never ever blocked a pair of socks. I'm not against it. Like if I had some cute sock blockers, maybe I would I would block some socks, especially if they were like color work or fun ones. All of my socks have negative ease in them, so I really don't want to be stretching them out. And they look just fine when they're on my feet. It's my little Sophie scarf. So the rest of my knits are currently on my balcony drying out, but this is the last batch here. Depending on how patient I am, I'll usually set up a fan just pointed at my stuff when it's on this rack. So usually when I do that, I think it dries in about half the time just with the continuous airflow of that happening. But I don't always do that. It depends on how lazy I'm feeling. Otherwise, this stuff is just gonna go ahead and dry. And I really have nothing else to say about this drying process. Could this fan be any more gross? This phase I like to call routine maintenance and inspection. I don't do this every single time, but usually when I go to wash a sweater, I will do a quick little inspection, and there are a couple things that I look for. I look for stitches that may have gotten caught on my cat's claws accidentally and have gotten pulled out. I look for any thinning or breakage in the yarn, so if I notice that there are a couple stitches that look especially thin and it could lead to a hole, I want to keep an eye on that. I always look at the underarms because on my earlier pieces, I was really not good at splitting for sleeves and body, and a lot of my underarms are like really messed up and the stitches are so loose and I'm just waiting for them to fall apart there. I like to just keep an eye on those. And I also look for pilling. So if there's something that looks like it's pilling a decent bit in certain areas, then I just want to touch it up with my pill shaver. I feel like this colorwork sweater, every time I wear it, has a stitch or two that kind of pops out. I think colorwork sweaters, stranded colorwork especially, it really easily gets caught in my cat's claws. And because of the long, there's a word for it, it floats. Because of the floats on the back of the fabric, some of the stitches, when they get pulled up a lot. And so I'll just go to the piece in the backside and I'll pull on that float to get that stitch back in place. And then on other pieces, if I notice that there's a stitch that has been pulled out, I will just take a needle or a darning needle or something, and I'll just kind of pick out all of the stitches to the right and left of it in the same row until I kind of even it out. Sometimes if something's not very loose, I'll honestly just like do a quick little tug in each direction and that'll make it look good enough. And when it comes to pill shaving, I really like having an electric pill shaver. I get a lot of use out of it. I would highly recommend that people get one. And I don't recommend that people buy things often, but I think that this really extends the life of a lot of your clothes. Usually when I break it out, I'll also go into my wardrobe and see if there are any like t-shirts or anything or sweatpants that could use a little pill shaver touch up, and I'll just do those too. Taylor Earl from Wool Needles Hands has a really excellent video about pill shavers, and if you don't own one already or have considered getting one, I would check out her video. The only thing I would warn people against, if you get an electric pill shaver or any really for that reason, is to try it out on a piece of clothing or a piece of fabric that you don't really care a lot about, because the first time I used this, I accidentally cut little holes all over. It was on a pair of pants that I had done it on. So just be careful. I'm gonna go ahead and do my routine maintenance process on all of these, and then if I notice any holes or anything that could use some more intentional fixing, I'll set that aside and we'll get into that for the next step. For those of you that don't own a pill shaver, just look at like the before and after of one sock that has been pill shaved and the other one that hasn't. I love it. I only found one item, or I guess it's a pair of socks, so a pair of items that actually needed some level of attention beyond this routine maintenance. So we'll talk about that next. So I looked at these socks a couple days ago and I saw like what I thought was all these holes, and now I'm looking at them again and I'm like, where did I found one. My eyes are playing tricks on me, maybe seeing things I want to see. In typical me fashion, there is a preferred method for doing this, and I'm going to do something else. So with this type of hole, like it's not even officially a hole yet, like there's still some, what I'm guessing is nylon, holding on for dear life. And so what would be recommended by some people at this point would be doing duplicate stitch over the whole thing. And I actually have a lot more of this exact yarn, so I could totally do that. And no one would know that there's like a thin spot there. But I don't want to do that. I've been waiting for a sock to get a hole in it for so long so that I could do visible mending. I saw like, I think an Instagram reel like a year ago of someone like doing visible mending on their sock where they did sort of a basket weave thing, and we learned weaving in elementary school, so I'm pretty sure, like, I haven't looked up anything other than that one video I saw that one time, so I'm gonna go based on my thin memory of that video for how to go about this. So I don't have like I think it's called like a darning egg. It's like a wooden device that you put in your sock to provide like a hard background to make it easier to do the weaving thing. What I do have is a jar of mini chocolate chips that I think will get the job done just fine. People who know how to do this can watch this video and be like, no, you're doing it wrong. And you can let me know that I'm doing it wrong, because I don't know. You can educate me. I'm all about that. Like, the comment section is such like free personalized education for me. But also, if you're gonna correct me on something, be very gentle about it. I'm extremely sensitive. I take things very personally. Maybe that's a me problem. Maybe don't be gentle about it, and I should just like get better at not being sensitive. So because I want this to be visible and I want it to be ideally cute and rustic, like, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's my first time doing this, so it can look a little rough. But I have these 2 sock yarns that I know for a fact have nylon content in them, so that'll help make them stronger or like make the patch hold up well, or so I hope. I'm already on the first stitch and I'm like, this is gonna take so much longer than I thought it would. I just want everyone to know that I'm at a part in the process where I just really start questioning myself and I lose all confidence in my decision making. The fun thing about this is if I do it wrong, the only thing that happens is I'll have to redarn it again. Okay, this is a thing. This is a thing. We're doing a thing. Okay, I'm looking at this patch. And I'm thinking, how strong could this really be? But also, it's definitely not going to make it worse. The more I look at it, the more I like it. Like, from a visual perspective, I do think it's going to help. Like, it's definitely not going to make the sock less durable. I really want to try it on, though. Yeah, I can barely feel that. That's nice. I think that's good. That's good. I'm going to go ahead and call it a success. That's it. That's how I wash and take care of all of my knits. If I were to make a video like this again in the future, is there any information that was not included in this video that you would like to hear more about? And what is your personal preferred method for fixing holes in your hand knits, or crochet people too? Speak up, because I haven't seen as much darning in the crochet world yet. But it could just be the fact that, like, there's not as many crochet socks in the world as there are knit socks. So that's, you know, that's a possibility. I feel really good and accomplished knowing that all of my knits are, like, freshly washed and depilled and fixed. That's it for me. Same time next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I keep forgetting to tell people to like and subscribe my videos, and my husband said that I should start telling people to do that. So if you're not already, like and subscribe. I don't know if it does anything, but every time someone subscribes to one of my videos, it gives me a little dopamine hit. So if you just want to give me a little dopamine hit, that's like, just push that button. You don't have to. Boundaries are important, so you just do whatever is best for you.
Open my eyes, I slept through the day. Slept through the day, feeling uneasy, I push it away. Push it away. Last night was fun, don't feel like today. Feel like today, let's do it again, let's go on a date. 'Cause tonight I'm gonna take you out.